2030.
Saudi Arabia, the public investment fund.
It's a
There's
big
a lot of
mission.
excitement
It's
around
transformational
NEOM specifically.
change. Every aspect of the kingdom, economic, social, cultural, religious.
The 2030.
This is the 2030.
Yalla.
This is the 2030 episode 50. Dr. Hanaa, congratulations. We did it.
Mabruk.
We made it. Look at us. Mabruk to you. What is up? How are you?
I'm doing exceptionally well. How are you?
I feel 50 right now. I'm feeling
That's
50.
not good. I feel like that's way off for you.
Oh, thank you.
Surely.
It's a young 50. It's a youthful 50. But
50 is the new 20, isn't it?
Yeah,
Or is that a bit
that's
of a
right. And
stretch?
20 is the new 5. So like 20-year-olds now are just like 5 years old.
I think you just get to 20 and just stay like 20. Even when you're 50, you're still 20, but like 20 isn't the new 5. You know what I mean? Like you're not younger at 20, but you're definitely not older at 50.
Right. And I also know some and knew back when I was that age, some 20-year-olds, it looked like they were 30. You know, they were the go-to guys to acquire things from stores that only certain people could buy at a certain age.
Oh my goodness.
And,
I have no
but
idea.
I was always like, man, you look
why
like
you
you're
would bring that up.
yeah, well, whatever. You know, it is what it is. But yeah, so no, I was talking with somebody about this recently, but like it's really hard. Like people are like, oh, to be, in your 20s again. And it's like, yeah, but like it's sort of hard to get your career going when you're in your 20s. It's hard to really stand out and have people take you very seriously. There's a lot of like benefits for each age, I think. So I don't really look at it that way. Oh, I wish I was 20. It's like, well, of course I wish I could physically be 20, but
I am in my favorite decade for sure.
You're in your Hanaa era. This is like your
my
queen era.
This is
Okay.
definitely the era that I want to be in. So actually, this is really funny. And this is a shout out to Ellen, a friend who did my spirit animal reading. And apparently and so it was like a past, present, future spirit animal. I don't know anything about spirit animals other than I'm in my dragon era. And that to me is all I need to know. Whatever. It feels like I'm living the dragon era.
You're in your dragon era. Okay. That's fierce. It's empowerment.
Exactly.
I love it.
All of that.
Okay.
It is that. And so it doesn't even matter what's next. Like I'm living the dragon. I'm going to ride the dragon era. I feel amazing.
You're just living the dream, man. That's awesome. Feedback from Christian. This show is great. Love the 2030. Thank you, Christian. Appreciate that.
Great. I also have some feedback to share.
Yeah, let it rip. We're 50 now. You can, get away with a lot.
My feedback is from where'd it go? Joel. Joel says, love the show, Dr. Hanaa. Big fan of you and Lucian. Always great content.
Back at you, Joel. Huge fan of Joel. Great guy. Runs this incredible company. And I get a question a lot. Where can I learn Arabic in Riyadh? And then also like, ideally it's not just Arabic or Saudi Arabic, but it's culture and other lessons and instruction to really integrate into, like, if you're going to move there, super helpful, right? I'm just a direct feeder to Joel. That's the second I hear that question, I give it to Joel. And Arabius, which is the name of the company he's running, and is doing very well and is highly regarded. All the best companies that are bringing people in en masse usually just sign up with Arabius and get their employees training on these matters. He's just such a good dude.
Oh, I should talk to Joel about that. I do training here often for diplomats that are about to go to Saudi or anywhere in the Gulf, actually.
There you go. You know what? I'm facilitating partnerships here. Look at me. Are you going to give me a taste of whatever cash? Or
let
no?
me know. I might be
okay.
able to.
Damn, that's all right. Finder's fee, whatever. Yeah, it's okay.
I also have some feedback from Zana, who says that she's super excited that we have done some in-person interviews.
I'm an in-person. Like once we got a taste, like I'm excited about that. Mostly because I'm excited about a lot of it. I think that you just get a dynamic there. I think for certain conversations, it can really have an impact. There are people that we have lined up to do in-person interviews with. We won't say their names because if they don't do it, we don't look stupid. But that where we really feel like that the conversation would just be much more dynamic and much more fluid. Maybe not much more, even just slightly, more. And then there are some conversations we have that are totally fine being done digitally. It doesn't really matter. Like the content matters. So I think it's a cool space for us to be expanding in. As we expand, 50 episodes in, cannot believe how quickly this has grown. Thank you to everybody, seriously, for your support. It's the reason why we do it. So, and it's fun, but I mean, it's nice to see that. So seriously, thanks to everybody. Shukran to everybody out there. Let's get to Dr. Hanaa led, which is, in my opinion, the best, deep dive.
Let's get to a deep dive. I'm going to talk about the Global Youth Index today, which is an index developed by the MISC Foundation, and it serves as a comprehensive tool to assess youth development across 40 different countries, representing 86% of the world's GDP and 76% of the global youth population. The 2024 edition evaluates 6 key domains: education and skills, entrepreneurship and employment, global citizenship and leadership, health and well-being, national ecosystems, and readiness for emerging trends. So in this deep dive, I'm going to give an overview of the GYI 2024 findings with a particular focus on Saudi's performance. So GYI measures factors that determine youth development around the world. Youth development is understood as the process that prepares a young person to meet challenges of a potentially complex future and achieve their full potential. And it is the responsibility shared by families, youth leaders, policymakers, the private sector, and nonprofits. So just to note, GYI 2024 is the 3rd edition of the Global Youth Index, and it is strengthened this iteration by a thorough validation process, which involved the contribution from external experts in the field of composite indices to support and validate the strategic and methodological development process of the index. The key findings from this report are: 1, youth development is progressing, but not fast enough. So despite global advances in education, tech, and policy reform, youth development isn't keeping pace with the rapid changes in the world, especially when it comes to the digital economy and AI. There's a gap between potential and actual youth empowerment in many countries. The second key takeaway is that AI and emerging tech are shaping the new frontier. Countries that prioritize digital skills, AI readiness, and innovation are pulling ahead. AI is no longer optional. It's a core driver of youth opportunity. The UK, South Korea, and Singapore are top performers here, but many nations are still lagging. The third is that mental health is a silent emergency. Across the board, mental health challenges are widespread, especially post-pandemic, but access to support remains low and stigma is still a major barrier, even in high-income countries. 4, youth entrepreneurship is gaining traction. The landscape for startups and youth employment is evolving. The UAE and Saudi are standout cases where policy, funding, and training are aligning to create thriving entrepreneurial ecosystems. The 5th key takeaway is education systems have to catch up. Formal education is still strong in many countries, but often not aligned with the skills that youth need, particularly in the green economy, tech, and soft skills. Work-based learning is underutilized globally. 6, gender gaps persist. Across almost every metric, from digital literacy to employment, women and girls face disadvantages. Progress is slow, and many countries still have systematic hurdles to gender equality. So let's go a little bit into Saudi's performance here. Saudi Arabia ranks 14th overall with a score of 56.3, which is an improvement from its 17th position and score of 52.6 in the previous edition. This advancement reflects the kingdom's ongoing efforts under Vision 2030 to enhance various aspects of youth development, including in education and skills. So Saudi scores 62.2 in the education and skills domain, which places it 15th amongst the assessed countries. And the kingdom excels in information communication technology skills, ranking 6th, and in work-based learning opportunities, securing the 2nd position. So despite these strengths, the overall ranking in this domain has declined from 10th to 15th, indicating that while progress is being made, other nations are advancing at a faster pace. So continuous investment in teacher training and curriculum development is essential to maintain and improve the quality of education. In terms of entrepreneurship and employment, significant progress is evident in this domain. Saudi ranks 8th with a score of 59.7, up from 39.4 in the previous edition. And this improvement is the highest among all countries in that domain. The kingdom's efforts to foster an entrepreneurial ecosystem and reduce youth unemployment are yielding positive results. Initiatives such as the Saudi Logistics Academy, established in 2021, exemplify the commitment to equipping young Saudis with skills pertinent to the logistics sector. And actually, my colleagues at the King Faisal Center for Research in Islamic Studies put out a really interesting report about the Saudi Logistics Academy. They anticipate the creation of 36,000 new jobs in that sector by 2030. So it's a really interesting space to watch. And we just had that conversation with the CEO of the National Industrial Development and Logistics Program, NIDLIB, Sulaiman Mazrour, who really did talk about how Saudi Arabia is at the cutting edge of logistics development globally. So it's interesting to see that Saudi really is leading on that space. In terms of global citizenship and leadership, Saudi ranks 14th with a score of 50.4, but the kingdom has a long-standing tradition of sponsoring students to study abroad, notably through the custodian of the Two Holy Mosques Scholarship Program, which has enabled over 130,000 young Saudis to attend leading international universities. And to further enhance global citizenship and leadership skills amongst youth, it's critical to support inclusive programs that promote international exposure and cross-cultural competencies. In terms of health and well-being, it's a domain that highlights areas that really require attention. Studies indicate that over 40% of Saudi youth have experienced a mental health condition, but under 15% have received treatment. Barriers such as stigma, lack of awareness, and limited availability of services contribute to this gap. So addressing these challenges really necessitates comprehensive strategies to promote mental health awareness and improve access to care. And I would love to get my friend, Muna Shahab, to come online and talk to us a little bit more about this, because she really is doing some very incredible work in terms of youth mental well-being within the kingdom. The national ecosystem is interesting. The national ecosystem domain reflects the kingdom's efforts to really create a conducive environment for youth development. Collaboration amongst government entities, which is actually the whole setup of the Vision 2030, is really changing the way all of these issues are addressed. They're not done in a siloed manner anymore. So you have government entities, educational institutions, the private sector. They're all vital to fostering innovation, economic dynamism, and robust infrastructure. And the continued investment in these areas is going to support the aspirations and potential of Saudi youth. They're ready for these emerging trends. I mean, the 2024 GYI introduces the Readiness for Emerging Trends domain, which assesses the preparedness for the green economy, AI age, creativity and culture, community participation, and Saudi shows promising results, particularly in readiness for the AI age. So initiatives like the National Strategy for Data and AI, they aim to position the kingdom as a global leader in artificial intelligence, providing young Saudis with opportunities to excel in this transformative field. But let's look a little bit now, let's pan out and look at what other countries are doing and kind of the top performers across the board. Some of these countries consistently rank high across all domains, which really reflects a robust youth development kind of framework. Germany actually comes in as number 1 overall, strong in education, employment, and global citizenship. It's known for its dual education system and youth engagement in democratic processes. Sweden comes in at number 2, high scores in health and well-being, gender equality, and social support systems for youth there. The Netherlands is number 3. Balanced performance across education, well-being, and emerging tech readiness is what they're known for the most, or what they're celebrated for within the report. The UK, number 4, notable strength in AI readiness and digital literacy. It also performs really well in global leadership and citizenship. South Korea comes in at number 5 with their high-tech focus, particularly strong in digital skills and education infrastructure. But you also have really high achievers in specific domains, like the UAE and Saudi Arabia, as I mentioned already, really score well in entrepreneurship and employment. They both have invested heavily in youth employment programs and entrepreneurship ecosystems. Saudi has, shown the most improvement in that score than any other country. Singapore, with their education and skills and emerging trends, they're really known for their top-tier education system and tech-forward policies. Japan for AI tech and tech readiness. So strong governmental focus on innovation through facing youth mental health challenges. And we do know that like within Japan, mental health challenges can actually be incredibly detrimental. But a lot of countries are also showing strong progress since the last edition, Saudi being a key one of those. It jumped from 17th to 14th overall, but big gains in entrepreneurship, AI readiness, and ICT skills. Mexico and Indonesia have also improved significantly, especially on digital literacy and youth participation in sustainability initiatives, which is really exciting. The countries that have notable challenges that still have a lot of work to do, you have India and Nigeria. Their large youth populations are making it very difficult for them to really make a lot of progress. They're still facing infrastructure gaps, unemployment, and education access disparities. Brazil is also facing key challenges around youth well-being and violence, but it does show promise in environmental engagement and youth-led activism. South Africa, high youth unemployment, despite decent education initiatives, entrepreneurship development is a key focus area for them. There's some really interesting stats in the different regions, but I think we've gone into most of it. And I think the report is online and everybody can kind of have a look. But I do want to say that just kind of following on from my last deep dive when I was talking about the Mohiba students, Saudi's Vision 2030 really has a really strong push towards STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. And one key initiative is the National Olympiad for Science, Scientific Creativity, IBDA. We talked about that already. So that's a really interesting thing that's highlighted as well. And I think that, you know, in general, this is a great report thinking about how young people are doing around the world, how Saudi young people are doing. This is definitely, you know, my area of research that I enjoy thoroughly. So I hope other people found the deep dive as interesting as I did. But the report is there, and I think it's definitely an interesting read. And the metrics are super interesting to go through because it's all laid out in a beautiful way. You can look at the graphs and compare different countries and really see kind of what's happening with young people who are the future. So
marvelously done, as always, Dr. Hanaa, highlighting information, research, reports that may fly under the radar, but are supremely important for what the theme of this show is, which is the transformation of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I think the key data point in this thing for listeners and viewers that are interested in Saudi Arabia is that the rise, the jump from 17th to 14th overall, with big gains in things that really matter for the future, like entrepreneurship, AI preparedness, and ICT skills. I think the important thing to note is that's a really good trend, but we're still very much in the middle of the vision. We're still mid-vision, as I like to say. And so what you look at when you see that trajectory and you see where we are in the vision, you hope that it continues to gain in reports and studies like this, but also in other reports and studies that are highlighting sort of what's happening. I think that you have what's going on in Saudi Arabia, the investment into, and I'm really glad you brought up your previous deep dive because it's a similar sort of topic. This is all about investment in the future. It's all about looking forward, building an economy and society and education system that prioritizes certain things to get you ahead, to make you globally competitive. That's exactly what Saudi Arabia is doing. And they are seeing huge successes here. So I think that's really exciting. You have this trend line, which is really good for Saudi Arabia. These things were announced 7-8 years ago, really took a couple of years to kind of wind up and get going. And now you're seeing results from it. Keep going. You're in the middle of this thing. You're seeing positive feedback, positive traction, validation in what you're doing. I think it's awesome. I think this report was really good. I think it is very good for Saudi Arabia. Didn't see the United States a lot in there. A little bit unfortunate, but I understand, right? I mean, what we're seeing with Saudi Arabia is you're seeing national buy-in to these changes, which makes these things a lot easier to accomplish, but it still requires a lot of hard work. Hats off to Saudi Arabia's performance in this report. Hats off to the authors of this report, and hats off to my co-host, Dr. Hanaa. This was a really good one.
Thanks, Lucian. You know that this is the topic that is closest to my heart and what I work on when I'm not recording this podcast. So it is, always fantastic to get more data points and really understand what's happening. And it's great to be able to compare. I think one of the things that really frustrates me, and I know that we've talked about this quite a bit, is a lot of times you'll look at progress that's happening in Saudi, and then people will say, well, I haven't seen the data. Or, yeah, but that's probably all like just, that's probably happening in that space only. And, it's not really moving the needle, or things aren't really changing for people. So I love reports like this that really kind of do that work for you, present the data in a really like clear cut way, so you can show evidence to support what it is that you are that you're kind of describing, because we can talk about the transformation and what we see and how it feels when you're there, but if you're not there and you're reading the news on a daily basis, this isn't what you're going to read. And the data that you might hear that's kind of like on the side in the background, you don't believe because the other main news isn't highlighting some of this incredible progress that's being made. And I think the main point is we're really headed in a great direction. So I think we need to celebrate the wins and celebrate the efforts, because there are so many incredible things that are happening, and it's nothing transforms overnight. There are challenges, but there's so much effort and a lot of really, really positive energy. So it's very exciting.
Very well said. Take the win,
Yeah.
Celebrate the dub. Get the dub in. That's awesome.
The dub? What's the dub?
The dub is like another term for a win.
Is it?
It's W.
Yeah, but because like you say that and I think of like my university.
Oh, yeah. Well, not everybody can be winning. But,
no, my university, UW.
I'm just kidding. I know UW. Yeah. Anyway, so it's a shorthand American slang term, especially used amongst pros.
Like I went there for 4 years. I don't even think anybody ever told me that.
Take the dub. Well, we wanted to keep some things for you to learn later on a podcast show about Saudi Arabia, of course. Congratulations to Saudi Arabia. Good deep dive, Dr. Hanaa. Exactly what we want to do with this podcast. Highlight those things as you noted. Let us get to some news.
Let's get to the news.
The dub.
Saudi Arabia explores the prospect of scrapping insurance approvals for health services. So, this is news about news that might happen, but I think it's really interesting because it's actually all over social media. So Saudi is exploring the prospect of scrapping insurance approvals ahead of time, like the pre-approvals, for health services in hospitals. So there is a bit of apprehension about the excess and waste in healthcare costs, which would negatively impact insurance prices in the event of scrapping these approvals, which is why they can't just do it. They have to, do a couple studies, which is what they have underway. Engineer Najid Tamimi, who is the CEO of the Saudi Insurance Authority, has revealed that they have received more than 400,000 complaints against insurance companies during the year 2024. And the complaint closure rate increased to over 99%, with satisfaction rate reaching 90 or exceeding 95%. So they're doing a good job at addressing these, but that is a lot of data that they're using to then explore whether or not scrapping these pre-approvals for health services is a good idea. The licenses were granted to 7 new insurance technology companies, as well as preliminary licenses to 6 foreign companies and final licenses to 5 foreign companies to practice insurance activities. So there's an expansion there. But then thinking about what that process is going to look like is what is being evaluated and kind of explored. So it's aimed at motivating companies to improve the quality of services and achieve customer satisfaction. But I wonder what this means for hospitals, and I wonder what it really does mean kind of for the insurance companies themselves. Do you have any thoughts on that, Lucian?
This is very customer focused. This is the source of disagreement, and was a major source of disagreement with Obamacare, sort of, making sure that people can get health insurance even if they're already sick. Insurance is for in the event that you may be sick, or that you may get a car crash, or that you may die, if it's life insurance, right? So, having approvals for health insurance services is very unfriendly to the insurance provider, because for them, they're thinking, hey, like, we're just doing diligence on who we're taking on as a liability. And we don't want to sign up to to get paid a couple $100 a month and pay out hundreds of thousands of dollars in healthcare costs if we know for sure it's going to happen, where you could usually see it. But a strong national healthcare system, wherever it is, has everyone insured, everybody bearing costs together. You want 100% insurance coverage of your country's citizens and people living there, residents. So I think this is a move from Saudi Arabia that is basically signaling to the marketplace that we want to have a healthy healthcare insurance system and options for you. And that doesn't exclude people who are not super healthy and young. It includes everybody. We're putting the consumer first, is what this tells me. And the insurance companies are probably not going to love it. I don't know. And I don't know how they're going to work that out on the back end, but certainly it's very friendly to consumers. So I think that's probably what generated social media attention for this. What did you see in your feeds?
Yeah, just a lot of sharing of the news. And I think that it's something, the healthcare system in Saudi is there's a national healthcare program. Everybody has access to free healthcare. And if you don't want to go to a government, like if you're a private sector employee, your company is required to give you insurance. I mean, basically they're privatizing the healthcare system. So even when you get government insurance, that will go through, what's the company called? Remind me.
Tawania, the one.
No, not Tawania, not the insurance company, the healthcare holding company, the government one. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but generally speaking, it's an ecosystem that provides everybody with healthcare, whether in the government hospitals, government run hospitals, or the private hospitals, through government sponsored insurance. And so I think it's important to note that, like, everybody has access to health insurance, everybody, locals and people that are working in the kingdom on visas and not necessarily citizens. So I think the point is, I think that the healthcare system works really well in Saudi Arabia. You can have long waits in certain hospitals, as you would in most places that have a national healthcare system, but there's access to the care that you need most of the time. So I do think it's usually customer focused. They're making sure as much as possible that people have access to procedures, treatments, whatever it is that they might need. And I think there's a lot of preventative healthcare that's ongoing at the moment as well, where you're really thinking about like well-being. So the investment in sports is also an investment in health, exercise, well-being. There's a lot of, efforts to really curb bad habits that make healthcare costs rise as you get older, things like that. So I think that it's an interesting ecosystem. I think it's worthy of a really strong deep dive or guest. Actually,
we should get a guest. We should definitely get a guest talking about this. A lot of interest in the space as well. You have interest from international providers looking to get into the market, and they're sort of wondering, how do we do that? Who are the players, et cetera? Super interesting. A test landing of an air ambulance for evacuation of patients from the Grand Mosque to hospitals has been successfully conducted. There's newly constructed helipad located within the third Saudi expansion of the Grand Mosque in Mecca for an air ambulance, and that air ambulance is designed to evacuate patients from the Grand Mosque and transport them to nearby hospitals for treatment during the peak pilgrimage season coming up, ladies and gentlemen. It's right around the corner. The modern helipad has been meticulously designed to accommodate air ambulance operations, ensuring a swift patient evacuation and transport to nearby hospitals. The authority has opened 2 helipads on the grounds of the Grand Mosque to expedite emergency medical evacuations, as well as to enhance healthcare services for Hajj and Umrah pilgrims ahead of the Hajj season. The helipads will enable the rapid transit of critical cases to hospitals in Mecca and Jeddah. 2025 Hajj preparations are gaining momentum as Saudi Arabia and its authorities prepare to begin issuing Hajj visas to pilgrims. Really cool. Love a good helicopter ride. Not the kind you want to be in, but very, very cool. Good good to provide safety to the people.
I think the main point here, and I think the reason that this news is important, is because, of course, we know last year several people lost their lives who were able to access Hajj permits that were fraudulent. They were tricked into thinking that they were on sponsored Hajj tours, and they weren't. And the thing is, like, Saudi goes through this preparation. There's, the ministry responsible for Hajj and Umrah is really looking at how they can provide the best care for the guests that come to perform the pilgrimage. And last year was really, really painful for everybody that was involved in that. It was a hot year, but the heat shouldn't have really been as detrimental as it was, because there were facilities that could accommodate the number of people they expected. And that's a couple million people, 3 million, I think. When it's more than that, it's really difficult to provide that shelter, those services, and that accommodation. So having these new, I want to say, measures put into place is clearly a mitigation effort to make sure that people are taken care of and that we avoid some of that kind of some of those detrimental effects of having people in the heat for too long. And hopefully this year is a much smoother Hajj season, 2 months away. So I'm very optimistic that they will hopefully be able to, make sure people have the right permits. They're on top of the numbers of people that are going to be there to provide the services that are necessary to support that many people. Saudi Arabia's non-oil exports rise 10.7% in January, or rose 10.7% in January. So according to the International Trade Statistics Bulletin for January, which was released by the GA-Stat, the General Authority for Statistics of Saudi Arabia, the ratio of non-oil exports, including re-exports, to imports increased 36.5%. in January 2025, which was up from 35.7% in January of 2024. So the share of oil exports in total exports decreased from 74.8% in January 2024 to 72.7% in January of 2025. And the chemical industry products were among the most significant non-oil exports, accounting for 23.7% of total non-oil exports. The largest category of imported goods was machinery, electrical equipment, and parts, making up 25.9% of total imports.
Just across the board, really good information, really good data, and good performance for the Saudi non-oil economy. That is the name of the game for Vision 2030. It's no secret. That is the good news. The bad news, if you're an American like me, China remains Saudi Arabia's top trading partner. Exports to China represented 15.2% of total exports in January, while imports from China accounted for 26.4% of the total imports during the same month. I mean, yeah, like that's also sort of the big overarching story of everything going on right now with Saudi Arabia, is that Chinese and Russian and European companies are taking market share, seizing opportunities where American companies would have had them before. And good on Saudi Arabia for doing that. Vision 2030 will not wait around for, its whole success depends on this non-oil economy development and exports. So there it is. I mean, it's really good news for Saudi Arabia, no doubt.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Rounding out the news segment, Saudi nationals' unemployment falls to 7% in the fourth quarter of 2024. That is really low for Saudi Arabia, especially when you look at the last 15 to 20 years. Saudi Arabia's job market strengthens as this 0.08% decrease suggests continued progress in the creation of new job opportunities in Saudi Arabia. The improvement in the labor market is a critical component of Vision 2030, which aims to generate employment opportunities for Saudis while stimulating broader economic development. The labor force survey revealed that the overall unemployment rate for both Saudi nationals and non-Saudis reached 3.5% in the fourth quarter of 2024, showing a decrease of 2 percentage points compared to the previous quarter. The unemployment rate for Saudi youth, which we have talked about recently on the show, also showed improvement, declining by 1.8 percentage points to 12.2% compared to the previous quarter. Awesome.
Very good data. And as a woman, I feel like I need to now talk about what's happening in the labor market for women. I was actually at an event.
Do you want me to handle that, or you want to?
I'm cool with it. I'm
you
cool.
got
Obviously,
it? Okay.
people are always like, "Oh, you're a Saudi woman. You must know everything about women in Saudi Arabia." And actually, to be completely honest, it's basically been a huge driver of my career. Is like, oh, Saudi woman, she can do work on Saudi women, and so that's what I
neat.
often,
A Saudi woman. Wow.
that's what I write about. That's what I talk about. I'm part of so many organizations that support women because people assume that that's exactly what I want to do, live and breathe all the time. And of course I do. I just, I think that the counterattack is always, but like it's a balanced society. Don't leave the men behind. Nobody's saying we're trying to leave the men behind. But I think, like in my deep dive earlier, when we were talking about gender disparity, just globally, there seems to be an imbalance still, as much as we try to overcome some of this. So,
don't forget about the boys. Keep the boys in mind,
I want to say the boys are all right. But anyway, so actually the data showed a lot of really great progress for Saudi women, as it has been showing for the past few years since the vision started. The data showed that for Saudi women, the labor force participation rate decreased, though, by 0.2% to 36%, which is still quite high compared to the 16% that it was, pre-vision, the 16 or 20% that it was pre-vision. The employment to population ratio did improve by 0.5% to 31.8%, and the unemployment rate did drop, which is great. And that's what you want to see, really. So it was 11.9%. It dropped by 1.7 percentage points. And then further insights into the unemployment population revealed that 94.1% of Saudis are open to accepting offers in the private sector. This is a huge misconception, I think, that continues to linger, that Saudis only want to take public sector jobs and that all of this growth that we're seeing is in the public sector. But that is definitely not true. There's so much private sector growth, and the government is not just giving jobs to people. Somebody mentioned that in an event I was at the other day, and they were like, I haven't seen the data. And I was like, I have, but I wasn't in the audience. I was on a webinar because I couldn't make it physically. And I was so frustrated by that. Like, well, of course, Saudi Arabia could do that because they're just giving the women jobs in the government. And I was like, that's not what's happening.
Yeah,
that is not, and I
false.
haven't seen the data. I'm like, well, the data is actually there. So if you wanted to look at it, you could access it. But here he's this like really important academic presenting on this topic. And I was so frustrated by it because of course now he's the authority on women in the Middle East and North Africa region. And then, he says that, which is again, like, why can we not celebrate the progress that is being made? We have to attack.
Was this a mansplain situation?
It was, and it was frustrating to me because I wasn't there to talk. And anyways, it doesn't matter. Among unemployed people, though, 61.9% of Saudi women and 45.2% of Saudi men are willing to commute for at least an hour. Again, that's not a commute usually in the public sector, right? And 77.5% of unemployed Saudi women and 90.7% of unemployed Saudi men expressed a willingness to work for 8 or more hours a day. So this whole idea that Saudis are entitled and privileged and only want to work like 5 hours in the public sector, this is not true anymore. Not with the growing population, not with the growing young population within Saudi Arabia, actually. I think the ambitions are very high, and these numbers are telling a good story. So maybe somebody needs to have a look at this data.
Yeah, go. Let's see the receipts, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you do have ground to make up for Saudi women. As an authority on the topic, let me say declaratively
let's hear it.
that, here we go. 36% labor force participation rate is about 20 points behind the United States. So use that as a standard or don't, but there's ground to make up there, but they are making it up. I mean, it is undeniably, except for this recent report where you had a slight downtick, 0.2 percentage points. So very slight. You're going to have the sort of ups and downs as you progress towards this. But yeah, just to echo what you're saying, it's like, it's so funny that this person, I assume man, just like declared this as fact. And you were like, oh, excuse me. Hi. And they're like, you're muted, Dr. Hanaa. We can't have you come in on this.
I haven't seen the data. I'm like, well, then stop talking about it.
Me. Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, yeah. So just really good progress. And also give it time. I've said this already on the show, so I'm sorry to repeat myself. We're mid-vision. These things are progressing. Follow the trend and see it for where it's going, not just what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah. Dr. Hanaa, great episode. Wonderful deep dive. Thank you so much. Congratulations on 50 episodes.
Congrats.
To 500,000 more.
Oh my goodness.
Of them.
I think I won't be in my dragon era anymore.
You'll be in your, how can we game that out? We're good.
We're
not going to be alive. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Take care.
Bye.